Okay, so now we've got to talk about that one sort of dark, dirty aspect of writing that people just really, really hate to have to deal with, and it is such a thorn in the side, but it is completely necessary, and not doing it often is the number one cause for poor grades, and that is proofreading and a failure to proofread. Proofreading is something where a lot of times people just have this idea of like first thought, best thought. Proofreading isn't even the same as revising. Like revising means going back and moving things around and deleting things and changing things and all of that. Like that's a whole other different process, which is incredibly important. But even after you go through the revision process, you just need to take that thing and proofread it, read it through really closely, and just make sure that dummy moves aren't sneaking in there. Because that's the big thing about proofreading, is that you're just trying to prevent unnecessary, unforced errors from sneaking in. Like in tennis, an unforced error is basically when you just make a mistake, right? It's not that somebody forced you to make a mistake. You just made one because you just weren't thinking it through. And that's the big thing that proofreading can help you with, is catching those little things, making sure that what you're turning in is a clean and smooth document and not something that's all bumpy and messy. So there are a few things that I think will help with proofreading, because it is that thing, it's the last step. I know as soon as you finish writing, you're like type, 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 type. You put that last period on there, and then you just want to be like, boom, send it out into the world, throw it into the garbage, burn it in a pile, submit it, get the grade, whatever. You just want to be done with it so that you can go eat some ice cream or, run down the street or whatever it is that you do when you're excited. So, but you still got to proofread. Okay, because that's where you're going to catch those little mistakes that turn D's into C's and turn C's into B's and turn B's into A's. Okay, so here are a few things that will help. A lot of times when people sit down to proofread, they just proofread their paper on the computer. Okay, that's good, that's important, but you're going to be able to proofread more effectively on hard copy. I don't know what it is, but it's sort of like a strange neurological thing that when you're just looking at it on the computer, we tend to read things more quickly. They've actually done eye tracking studies where they actually track someone's eye as they're reading online or on a computer. And when you're reading on a hard copy, you tend to read like this, like one line at a time, all the way through. When you're reading online, or on a computer, you tend to just sort of skim down. So we are habituated into being more skim-like in reading if we're doing it on a computer, whereas on a hard copy we tend to slow down, we tend to read things more closely. So behind a printer, print that thing out, proofread on a hard copy. It'll also just give you a different sort of opportunity, a different environment. Okay, also, speaking of environment, read it in a different room. Okay, go somewhere else to do your proofreading. If you've composed the entire work in one particular place, go somewhere else to do the proofreading, because it'll put your mind in a different set. You'll be able to just think about it a little bit differently. You'll be able to look at it a little bit more cleanly and make the important leap that is reading it as an objective piece of artifact, as opposed to reading it as something that you yourself wrote, because the more you're able to divorce yourself from the writing, the better you're going to be able to edit it. Okay, so hard copy, reading it in a different place, those are important things. What else can help? Reading it out loud. Okay, I always advise students to do a round of proofreading out loud. It's like take the paper, get the paper there, read that thing out loud. Okay, you're going to feel awkward when you're doing it, especially if there could possibly be anybody else around. You're going to be like, I'm reading my paper right now, and you're going to feel kind of like a dork. Whatever. Feel like a dork if it means getting an A. All right? It's worth it. Okay? So read that thing out loud. If you read it slowly out loud, you'll recognize the spots where your sentences are maybe a little bit more confusing, the spots where there's clunkiness in there, the spots where your commas aren't in the right place, because reading out loud will really help you a lot, especially if you have comma problems, because it will demonstrate when natural speech would indicate a pause. Okay? So read it out loud. And there's one last technique that I want to run through with you in regards to proofreading. And that's actually, if you really are struggling, start at the end of the paper and proofread it one sentence at a time, going backwards to the beginning. Okay, the reason why to do this is that a lot of times when you're reading through it from beginning to end, you just get caught up in the narrative of your own writing. You're just like, oh, I'm so smart, you know, I got all these good ideas, and you're just getting caught up in the story that you've woven, right? But if you are looking at it one sentence at a time in isolation, starting at the end, there's not any narrative to get caught up in, so it can help you focus on each sentence as an individual sentence. So those are things that can really help you and help you crush it at proofreading. And seriously, proofreading is one thing, takes like 15 minutes a lot of times, or even less than that, and it can end up saving you an entire letter grade, because you'll be astonished by the number of little unnecessary, unforced errors that you would let sneak into your writing. So proofread well, you know, use a hard copy, get in a different place, do it out loud, read from back to front, do these types of things, and you'll really help yourself out.